let's go live. Screw it. Let's do it. Feel free to have your own music on. I will be sitting here seeing how many permanents I can get MTGO to do. So that is going to be good fun. Currently at 46 Sakashimas of 1,000 Faces. Hopefully going to go to 1,000. We have 960 cards in the library still. We're not going to be using all of those. I am planning to make this a video as well. I just thought I'd rather have some company while I was doing this. So if anyone wants to ask me anything in chat, then feel free. Otherwise, I'm just going to be sat here for however long it takes. And I'm hoping it doesn't take too long. Of course, MTGO might just break, in which case the stream will be over. But you know, we'll see. I know MTGO can handle 200 tokens, so I'm not overly worried about the number of tokens. Indeed, I'm not worried about getting up to 200. I think after 200 is where I'm going to start wondering how difficult it's going to be. Actually, to be fair, MTGO does like these are all individual objects as opposed to token copies, so might be a little bit different. I also hope I haven't got creatures. If I've got creatures at the moment that I cannot for some reason cast from my hand without paying them with Omniscience, then that will be a pain in the ass. But hopefully we'll not hit any of those. So the aim here is to it's really just for my own benefit, and I don't think anyone else is going to have ever done this. Well, probably a few people might. Well, some people might have tried to do token limits, but certainly I don't think anyone's going to have done a permanence limit. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. We are essentially using Infinite Reflections and Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. I did have a much more complicated combo trying to get this to work. I was going to use Essence of the Wild, and then I realised Infinite Reflection existed, and that was so much easier. So we've just enchanted the original Sakashima of 1,000 Faces with Infinite Reflection, and every single creature we play turns into a Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. And we have Elemental Bond in play. Elemental Bond is an enchantment from Magic Origins, in fact. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Mandatory. So if I'm not careful and I play over 1,000 cards, there is a possibility that we'll actually draw out. But I did stick a couple of extra cards in just to mitigate this. And I don't know necessarily if I have faith that MTGO is actually going to get to there. I mean, to be fair, it's handling the fact we have 1,000 cards in the deck particularly well. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's probably the most cards I've ever had in a deck. I think MTGO is going to be extremely unhappy. I mean, this is not even the largest number of opponents I've had out. I mean, when I was trying to make this deck, when I was trying to make the deck where everything goes to the command zone, Vadrock, we had similar numbers of things. I've tried to do a similar thing.
From Plane Chase.
Thanks, computer. I've tried to do a similar deck before with auras. The trouble with auras is that it was trying to get the maximum number of auras on an individual object. Now, that might sound straightforward. However, at the time I calculated it, there was it was quite difficult to work out the, well, you essentially there were something like 15 or so different classes of aura that I came up with, and some of those had to be ordered in terms of you couldn't enchant them. You had to enchant onto the object in a very specific order, otherwise it wouldn't work. So yeah, to get that to work, essentially you have to be able to tutor quite quickly. Why have I got the city's blessing? The hell? I have got no clue why I have the city's blessing. I probably played something that cared about the city's blessing as you enter the battlefield, but I did not think that would be a problem. Okay, well, never mind. Currently up to 67. We're getting one done every about 10 seconds, so that's pretty decent. Go away, terminal. I honestly don't know whether it's going to start going faster or slower as time goes on. Certainly when you start tutoring, I imagine it's going to start going slower. Like getting cards out of the deck is not the computationally hard thing. It's after doing the research last time, the difficulty here is getting the cards to be displayed in the card selection window. But for example, like, well, it still has to do thinking for things like Hermit Druid, which is how we get all of our lands out of our library at the start of day. Yeah, that's without Hermit Druid, this wouldn't be a possible thing to be doing. By the way, like, you'd have to have a ludicrous number of lands. But Hermit Druid basically is one of the weirdest cards you can possibly have, I think. It's a Vanguard, which is weird enough already, but it pulls land cards out of your deck at random, without you even needing to search for them, which is great. So somebody from the Penny Dreadful team turned me onto that as a good way of, this is now my standard combo, is to have Hermit Druid and Birds of Paradise. So pulling out all of your lands at the start of doing a combo, doing something to reproduce, and then they all tap for all colors of mana. Really nice. And for this, for example, what I've been able to do is pull out 4 Darksteel Citadels. Once you have the 4 Darksteel Citadels out, you have an Inventor's Fair, and the Inventor's Fair can be sacked to search for an artifact, and so we can search for Planar Portal. Planar Portal allows us to search for anything, which is really rather nice. But I actually have 2 of these. So one of them gets Omniscience, one of them, well, once you got Omniscience, like, you still have to pay for things, but you don't have to pay for cards from your hand. You have to pay for the ability of Planar Portal, which is probably one of the slowest steps, but yeah. You have the beginnings of a wombo combo. So up to 80 now. So at 100, I'm going to take stock and see how the game's doing. Doesn't seem too bad. Like, I've made a bunch of space. I might get rid of the game chat log, actually. Let's get rid of that. Gives us a bit more real estate. And the hope is that I'm not going to hit something. I actually have no idea. I just randomly picked the first 1,000 creatures I could find out of my collection. I'm hoping that they can all be cast. If there's something that prevents them from being cast from hand, then that's a problem. I think only like Harkon is in that list, and I don't think I got that far. I hope. So I guess we'll see, but '84. Probably stick some music on. Yeah, no, that's fine. Anybody who's watching, I have no idea if anyone is actually watching. If you are watching, feel free to say hello in chat, and I might see it. Yes, good. I hit the wrong. Right, I was just hitting F4 there. I was like, that's probably not a good sign. But F4 is just auto no, so it doesn't actually do anything else like tab through. It's probably, I don't think it's going to affect us if I like accidentally F2 instead of F4, but I'd rather not find out. Might be quite interesting to find out. I don't know if I've got clone in here as well. Hey, Sir Hat. Lots of people saying this is absurd. Good. I'm glad. Additional. Oh god, additional costs. I didn't think of additional costs. This could be a problem. I've got some lands left. That's fine. Sean says this is absurd. I really hope I haven't got many creatures in here that have a alternative additional costs. That will be a problem. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping this is just going to be a relatively chill thing. So if people want to just chill out and say hi, ask questions, I'm available. Yeah. Hopefully the game doesn't fall over. It might. I can't remember the maximum number of objects I've had before. Certainly, tokens wise, you can have up to 200. But in terms of distinct permanence, I have no idea. We might get to 200 and it might just go that you've hit the permanent limit, in which case the end of the stream is there. But yeah. So what is actually happening here? What I'm trying to do is, well, I was on my Discord and I was like, oh, I wonder whether there's actually like a permanent limit on MTG. I know there's a token limit. Token limit is like 200. And that's just to stop your client from dying, I think. But I don't know if there's like a permanent limit. And so what I've done here is set up a deck with 1,000 creatures. And we started off by with several vanguards in play. We have Hermit Druid and Birds of Paradise. Birds of Paradise possibly you don't actually need. It's just nice to have. Yeah, but Hermit Druid is quite useful because at the start of every turn, it will pull a random land out of your deck. And so you can essentially run with a very, very limited number of lands in your deck. In this case, I've got 12. The sort of bootstrapping here of being able to tutor for the things that I actually care about, because obviously trying to do this like fairly is not going to work. But the idea I've come up with is to have Darksteel Citadels in the set of lands, Reliquary Towers to stop you from having a hand limit. That does help more often than you might think. And an Inventor's Fair. The Inventor's Fair basically says 4 tap tutor for an artifact card, and that allows you to go and get a planar portal. Planar portal says 6 tap, search your library for a card, and that's pretty decent. So at that point, we get to tutor using just artifacts and lands to get any cards in our deck. And what we've done is to go and get Omniscient, so we can cast spells for free. We've got Infinite Reflection we've got Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, because I want to try and see if we can hit 1,000 permanents in play, 1,000 creatures in play. Sticking an Infinite Reflection on Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, which hasn't copied anything. It's just a Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, because that is by default a 3/1. And so every creature I cast will enter the battlefield as a copy of Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, which is triggering Elemental Bond, which allows us to draw a card. So essentially, the engine is automated at this point. Now, I did have it where I was using Glimpse of Nature. I will just stop because we've hit the 100 mark. Crusader of Odric is keeping count for us. So this is what 100 creatures looks like. There we go. If I do that, then pops open the window a bit more, and we can see everybody. Awesome. So step 100 sorted. But yeah, so I did have Glimpse of Nature beforehand. The trouble with Glimpse of Nature is that it's a triggered ability, and it's an on-cast ability. And so when you're doing stupid things like this, any amount of clicking you do is quite quickly adds up to the sort of like the whole total cost of doing a stupid combo. And so essentially what I've had to do here is try and instead of having the Glimpse of Nature, which the problem with MTGO is when you have that, it retains priority for you after the on-cast trigger resolves, and so you have to click again to sort of say yes, carry on, resolve the original creature spell that I was doing. I know you have drawn a card by that point, but because this is as it enters the battlefield triggered ability, it means I can just yield to this and it will just automatically draw the card. And so, I mean, in theory, I can keep my mouse down here. I'm pressing F4 to automatically say no, I don't want to have it enter as a copy of anything else. Would it be quicker to use the tutor things to find a Primal Surge as your one non-permanent, just vomit the entire deck into play? Now, that is a very interesting question. In practice, before, MTGO has an internal timer. Now, I haven't tried it. I have tried a similar thing. So the similar thing I've tried is in the past, I've tried to play a deck with every single aura in Magic the Gathering and have in Magic the Gathering Online, which is about, there's like 800, or at the time thinking it was like 900 auras, and of the ones that were sort of compatible with each other, which is, there's about 20, you can't play about 23 together, I think. Some of them are curses don't count. Some of them are mutually exclusive, like turns something into a color and then it's enchant non-color. So yeah, that was the previous deck I tried. And the things I tried for that, so my usual go-to is like drawing everything into my hand, and especially for the auras deck, I needed to do them in a very particular order. If they didn't go in a particular order, it wouldn't you wouldn't be able to enchant some things at some times. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, there was definite ordering involved, and I spent quite a while actually coming up with the ordering. But then trying to get all the auras in my hand, I just used the blue spell. What's it called? The standard blue spell that I use to get to draw your entire deck and then put a card back. I tried to do that, and the game would sit there, and the game would sit there, and then it would do the thing where it automatically restarts. And my theory is that on the server end, if it's doing too much stuff, it kind of it's got an internal timeout, which will trigger the game to do that, the standard restart thing that it does when when it detects like an infinite loop, or you got infinite loops of Oblivion rings, for example. So doing too much stuff breaks it. I also tried to do just like an infinite draw loop using, because this is solitaire mode, an infinite draw loop using the Sphinx corrupted. Is it corrupted Sphinx? Something like that. The one that when your opponent draws a card, you draw 2 cards, which did kind of work. But then I tried to yield to that, and yielding to that trigger also caused it to go into an infinite loop, and then it timed out. So generally speaking, I don't think anything that's going to take a huge amount of time to do would be allowed. It's very possible for something like this where it just vomits everything into play, that might be good enough. Would be interesting to see, certainly. If you have MTGO and you want to test it for me, then I would be I'd be much appreciated, because it might save me a heck of amount of time. But yeah, generally speaking, I find that doing things one at a time on MTGO tends to be more stable. Certainly when I was doing it previously, I think Daybreak have actually done some performance tuning, a little bit of performance tuning in certain places. I don't know how much they're planning to do, or they are in fact doing, but certainly when I've been just doing some normal operations around the client, it's been a lot faster for some. But like, so trades, for example, have been really quite quick, as compared to the standard MTGO clients. I don't know if the code is different, or whether they've just like sped the servers up, but actually put some resources on the servers. Who knows? Kind of feel like MTGO was being run on a single server somewhere in the basement of Wizards. Really wouldn't have surprised me. But yeah, it's a complicated client. I trying to do as little to it as possible. It's still not perfect. I mean, everyone knows MTGO is not perfect, but it tries. It tries. Yeah, if you want to try this, the standard deck, if you just get the cards at the bottom that I've got, you'll go quite a way to getting the sort of same setup. My worry is that, I mean, we're already at 120, so we're about oh god, I don't know what that is as a percentage. I mean, it's slightly over 10%, right? Then I feel like these cards are going to get very tiny very quickly. And that was one of the big problems with the Aura deck. I actually managed to get, I think I have one video somewhere of like 100 auras on a single creature, just as a sort of like demo for how I'd actually get this all to work. And by the end of that, I had a very long, very small line of creatures, of auras, and one very sad creature at the end of it. So. And of course, at any time we might just run into the fact that I stuck in some additional costs on this as well, so that could be a problem. But anyway, how has your Saturday? How has everyone's Saturday been? Have you done any magic-related activities? Anything interesting for people to? Anything interesting to talk about? I myself have been tidying my office, which is desperately needed. We are aiming to move house at some point this year, which, as a British person at the moment, is quite a daunting thing to be doing, especially in the current economic climate. But unfortunately, needs must. And so tidying up all the stuff in my office has been somewhat interesting. It means I have to tidy the piles of Magic cards up, which, yeah. My backstory has a backstory. I was wondering why you didn't use Starfield of Nyx. Yes, somebody else in the comments said why didn't I use Opalescence? And there is no good reason for it. You could easily use Starfield or Nyx. You can choose any way of animating it. My standard brain just went to turn it into an artifact and then turn it into an artifact creature, just because I have a brand. And liquid metal coating is unfortunately it. It's one of my favorite cards. So. But yeah, I've been trying to do some other fun stuff as well. Trying to get auras to be enchanted on people, like any random, like some random auras to be enchanted on people, and MTGO just really does not like that. I've been failing quite miserably at it. MTGO, I think, is somewhat weirdly coded in that set. What on earth? No, Curse of Leeches. No, why? Why are you in this deck? You're not a creature. Oh, god damn it. Okay, well that's fine, because I can just skip to the next turn. But oh, that's a pain. We knew we were going to get bitten at some point, and we have been. My filter was just on creatures. I didn't individually go and check, but it's fine. We'll just untap and upkeep and draw into another creature. Just hope we have enough to hope we have enough to hit this now. Now we're gonna get some that are summoning sick and some that aren't summoning sick. Never mind. 874. We got we got a bit of leeway. I put in something like an extra 4 creatures, an extra 5 creatures maybe. So I realized that this was going to happen because yeah. When you're talking about putting 1,000 creatures in, you're going to make some mess ups. You do not want to get to 999 and realize that you you got the wrong number. That would be pretty terrible. But yeah, the combo I've been trying to do is so this the same sort of combo. Are you kidding me? I said to myself, I've put Harkon in this deck. Well, have I put Harkon in this deck? Okay, well that's the second. Why is it the black creatures that are causing problems? Why? I do not want to attack with all my Sakashimas. Go away, please. Thank you. So good job, I got spares. Harkon is like literally the only creature I can think of that cannot be cast from hand. So, I mean, there's probably others actually, but we'll see. I don't know if there's like any creatures that are specifically like suspend only. Probably. Time Spiral was a bit of a weird block, but none are coming to mind. But yeah, the MTGO does really not. So the thing it doesn't handle is if you say have Curse of Leeches and turn it into an artifact, So any sort of like player curse, for example, turn that into an artifact and then enchant it with Tamiyo's completion. That turns it into it's still an enchantment aura, but that's an enchantment aura with no abilities, which is not a problem. Like an enchantment aura with no abilities can still be attached to things. There's just no restriction on what it can be attached to. But as soon as you do that on MTGO, it's like, you're attached to a player and you don't have enchant player, therefore you must be going to the graveyard. So yeah, unfortunately, Wizards are not letting me enchant planeswalkers. Well, they're not letting me attach planeswalkers to myself, which is probably good. I have tried, chat. I have tried desperately to get planeswalkers to attach to me, but unfortunately, no dice. But yeah, I'm happy that MTGO finally started adding a whole bunch of new cards. For the longest time, they just didn't have backgrounds at all, which is why you're seeing a lot of background stuff coming in at the moment. Just because at the time, Commander Legends, Baldur's Gate, they just went, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to stick it on Magic Online. Why would we do that? You know, they haven't even put all the backgrounds on. There's still a handful of ones that just don't exist, and I don't really know why. The next fun one for me, I think, will be the Warhammer 40k decks, if they actually print those in their entirety. Because if I can get the Necrons deck, then there's some real fun shenanigans when it comes to it's the replacement effect enchantment, which says if you would lose the game, instead reanimate something. There are some shenanigans there, if I remember rightly, as you might expect. Replacement effects are the weirdest thing you can do in Magic the Gathering. We're up to 141, and the game is mostly coping here, which is nice. I do hope you're not just watching this playing, because I have no music on, so please feel free to stick some music on in the background, or indeed watch watch something else at the same time and just listen to my dulcet tones. I wasn't even going to stream this, but I thought I'd rather not be lonely and have to do this. So yeah, although I have been going for 33 minutes, and I do not know how many of these I've done now. I think I've done about 100. So that's gonna be a long stream if I if I do this. We'll see. Thankfully for MTGO, I may be able to leave this like half done and then come back to it, because it is a solitaire game, and I've definitely left MTGO before, and it's just been like, yeah, this is fine. And again, of course, once we hit 200, the game might just say, sorry, too many permanents. Although, if I can have 200 tokens and a whole bunch of lands, that kind of would indicate that the actual like item limit is a lot higher. So game does feel a little bit more jerky though. So the other thing I've been trying to look into as well are the Transformers cards. Obviously, I still need to read the comprehensive rules for Convert and work out how it is different to Transform. Because I assume it is somewhat different. But yeah, I haven't looked into it too deeply yet. And none of the cards really are that weird for the Transformers cards. Like, if any of them were doing something super weird, I'd probably be able to make a video about it, but I don't know. I've been thinking as well about convert is transform with a weird flavor. Okay, cool. Yeah, I need to like I say, I need to read those comprehensive rules. I assume they're in there. Also things like stickers, but I don't think MTGO has support for like attractions and stickers yet. I pity the person who has to implement that if God forbid anything became legacy viable. I feel like they've hedged their bets there somewhat. Tim, you've walked into a live experiment on how many creatures we can get into Magic Online. I'm trying to hit the permanent limit, if there is such a permanent limit. I haven't looked. What would have been useful to do is to actually look that up before starting. But that to me feels like a losing proposition. So yeah, we're going for experimental vigor here. We're trying. We're not creating any tokens. These are all non-token creatures. The engine is such that we have a single Sakashima. We have a Sakashima of 1,000 faces up here with an infinite reflection, and everything enters the battlefield. Yeah, exactly. We need 1,000 faces. I'm aiming for 1,000 faces. That is the plan. I want to see what it looks like at each different point. I want to see how small we can actually get the battlefield getting. So I feel like at 1,000 permanents, the little ticker down here is going to be going for quite a while. I have to say, it's doing pretty well so far. MTGO gets a lot of malignment, but for something like if you treat it in the correct way and you sort of know where the quirks are, it's doable. Yeah, I mean we basically bootstrapped using a combo of so I mentioned it before, but Darksteel Citadel plus Inventor's Fair plus Hermit Druid, the Vanguard, allows you to essentially pull an Inventor's Fair out of your deck plus a bunch of artifacts in your artifact lands. And then that allows you to tutor for a planar portal. And then once you have a planar portal, you basically can tutor for anything in your deck. But the ideal is to not require tutoring at all, because tutoring is quite slow. I would demonstrate, but I'm not going to, because it is like I say, you basically sit. One of the issues is, and I've looked this up in the well, not so much looked up in the code, but I have played with this in the past. Is that it has to render all the cards in your deck as it has to be able to render the top bit of it. So when you're coming to select it in the window, then you have to do that. And we have 846 cards in our deck, and that is a problem. So it takes time to render all of those cards for the card selector. So if you can get away without having to do that, then it's a lot faster. And what we've got up here is just is set up to have the minimum amount of clicks involved. So I was saying that I had tried this with Glimpse of Nature before, which is the green spell from Kamigawa, I'm going to say, where when you cast a creature spell, you get to draw a card, and that does work. It works the same as basically Elemental Bond here, but the issue is that it leaves you having to click through the priority on the stack. So MTGO, when you cast the spell, the Glimpse of Nature triggers and goes on top, which is just how it works. It's an on-cast trigger, and once that on-cast trigger resolves, then you have to you have to click through the creature spell to actually resolve as well. So yeah, it's not ideal, which is why I've gone with the elemental bond from. Ooh, it's starting to get a bit choppy, isn't it? Yeah, I've gone with the elemental bond from Origins. There's a whole bunch of other ones you could do. Have you tried modding the client so the cards are easier to render? It'd be easier to test the server that way. I haven't. I think there's probably terms of service against it, and if I get banned from the client, I'd probably not be happy. But yeah, honestly, it has occurred to me, like, being able to disable some bits, you know, like not having to show pictures, for example, would be quite useful. There are things you can do, and I have done in the past. So one of the nice things you can do is to set up a proxy server for your connection, and then intercept all the interactions that go to a specific domain, and the image domains for well, you don't even need to do that really. There is a specific image domain that you can sort of set up in the XML files of Magic the Gathering Online, and that's where it gets all of its card images from, which is quite cool. So you can bypass the selection for any of the card images and replace it with your own art. And I have done that in the past too. I think I've done it twice in videos. For my 11 video, was it the 11 video? It was the Stranger Things video. When the Stranger Things cards came out, I replaced the art of one card with the art of one of the cards that just hadn't been released yet, so I could actually test it on Magic Online, you know, sort of demonstrate the combo while it was there, essentially. But it was fake. I mean, obviously, I'm not being able to code any mechanics into that. The mechanics are entirely within the sort of the game engine on the remote side. In terms of the presentation layer, it is definitely possible to mod it. Whether it's within the terms of service, I don't know. I honestly couldn't say. It feels like if it's going through a proxy server and that proxy server is accidentally pointing you at the wrong image, and replacing all of your images with another image, could be it could be out of your control. I don't think there's anything against that. But possibly, like, I think if you're modifying the game files to be getting faster, then that's probably going to be a problem. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's got any sort of like game engine detection, so I wouldn't be surprised if you could sort of like in memory hack it to bypass some subroutines to say, instead of doing this thing, you know, do this automatically, for example. Really wouldn't surprise me if there's some coding you could do there. I am not. I don't do Windows programming. If it was Linux, I might be able to do it, but Windows, I am a noob at hacking, shall we say. We're getting up to 173, so we're not too far away from 200. So I think 200 is going to be that point at which we work out how bad this is going to be. Like, if it just stops at 200, then that'd be interesting. I don't think it will, because, as I said before, we're testing sort of a permanent limit rather than a total limit. Might have like a limit on the number of copies of a thing that you can have, because each of these is actually an individual copy of another creature. Certainly at the presentation level, it doesn't have to worry about that all the time. It's just what it displays them as here, I guess. But making some really interesting display decisions, isn't it? It keeps popping between sizes. But yeah, I have considered doing some more coding around MTGO in the past, just to so there are some really cool things you can do, especially when it comes to like the card image IDs, because those image IDs are different to the getting boringly technical now. There's each card in Magic the Gathering Online has got a card ID. And that card ID does not necessarily correlate to the image ID. So the art ID or the artwork ID is different in some cases to the image ID. And so I think it kind of makes sense in some situations, but it's kind of bizarre. So yeah, there's a mapping essentially between the card ID, the actual physical card, and the image artwork on the back end. And what I wanted to do was write some code to automatically scrape those from the software. Essentially, you can just download them from a well-known HTTP endpoint. I say well-known because of the way that this program is written. You can find all of the files online at a known URL and calculate where the rest of those files are at a known URL at any given point. So it's a really, really simple programming task to say, in Python, pull down the manifest for this program and then iterate through every single card you can find and write that into a database. It's just time. I just haven't done it yet. I was trying to do it in Rust, trying to do it properly. Trying to parse the manifest, because the manifest is in a Windows specific format, which is, let's say, not particularly well documented. Well, it is documented. It's not well documented, which is better than no documentation whatsoever, I guess. But if you're trying to sort of work out exactly how a program should be looking, it is somewhat difficult. But yeah, hopefully at some point I'll have some software to just pull all the data out of the MTGO code base and be able to do some cool stuff with it. One of the nice things about looking, you can just examine the XML files, is find all the weird hidden test cards that they have. There's a couple of really cool test cards you can find if you import the right decks. You can import a card. I think card ID number 2, going by memory, I think is like, I think it's called Library of Alexandria. No, it might not be Library of Alexandria. It's a library of something, and essentially it's a God mode card for developers. It sort of says you can draw your entire deck, do a whole bunch of different things with activated abilities, and it's sort of like a debug level card. You can't add it to decks, I assume, unless you're an admin, but it does exist in game modes, and you can examine it by importing a deck list with it in. It's kind of cool. I don't know how many of those there are, but one of the things I would like to try at some point actually is to see if I could get it in a deck somehow, or just try and trade it to myself. Try and exploit some sort of trading thing. Probably get banned for that, to be fair. And again, don't really want to get banned. Coming on the 200 here. Would like to have sort of splits. That'd be nice, just to see how fast this is actually going and how many hours this is going to take me. I think I've managed this in about the second 100 in about 16 minutes. So it's starting to get a bit more good. Try it on a VPN in a VM. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. But the trouble is you have to have a valid account as well. I suppose you can do it with free accounts now. I suppose free accounts exist, so just leave before Brexit to decompile and modify software. So if you ported MTGO to ARM or something, it'd be good to make modifications. Yeah, after Brexit, not so much. Yeah. Yay, Brexit. That went well. Yeah, it's really annoying. Like I think we've always been a little bit draconian with the with decompiling stuff, and I don't think Wizards have got a a bug bounty or anything exciting like that. They're not the sort of company that would have a bug bounty for well, anything, especially not like Magic the Gathering Online. I mean, maybe they have a security distribution list if you come up with some proper bugs that some really bad bugs, but yeah, I don't think they've got anything normal. Yeah, I can always visit the EU. It's legal here. Well, I am vaguely toying with the idea. It'd be nice to come to Magic Con. Is it Magic Con now? Magic Con Barcelona. That'd be quite nice to do. But part of the issue with that is that they have decided to, in their infinite wisdom, hold it during the summer holidays, and so yeah, it's just going to be absolute chaos, and not entirely good. I have two children, and they one of them is will be out of school, and one of them will be out of nursery at this point. So yeah, it's not ideal for me to have a tournament to go to in the middle of summer. If they pay for my flights and pay for the hotel or something, then I'd be more inclined to go. But certainly, I'm more inclined to be. If it was like Lille or something as well, it's probably not as bad. Although having said that, the flight to Barcelona from the UK is probably about the same as anywhere in Europe. I mean, it's only about £100 for the flight. I think it's more where do you stay. Staying in downtown Barcelona is quite a daunting amount of money, unfortunately. Also, we don't know where it's being held yet, the tournament. So that's also an issue. Nearly at 200, and the client is going strong. I have to say, the Kurt, you want your kids to get to know mom. Yeah. Yeah, their mother is they spend a lot of time with the mum already. So yeah, I mean the trouble is I've if it hadn't been for the fact that I'm also going to the Axion Now tournament in February, where I'm yeah, I've got like a 5 day period. I've got a 5 day mini holiday just on my own, leaving my wife with both kids, which yeah, that's already required a bit of negotiation skills to get to that point. So yeah, I'm going down to London to see Weird Al Yankovic, on the Thursday. I just wanted to do that. It's just like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. But then I'm not going. I'm not going home after that. I am going to going up from London to Birmingham, which is where the next tournament's being held. And then yeah, spending a few days in Birmingham on my own. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of an expensive trip, but thankfully the sponsorship money I got from some of the work I did last year has paid for the majority of that, so that's good. Nice to get sponsor money. All right, so that is 200 faces of Sakashima, and I think they're vaguely visible still. I don't think this is ridiculously small yet. I think if we had to play another 200, we might start running into problems. Let's get to 300 and see where we're at. Let's see if we can get to 300. I might then have to call it for the evening and then maybe come back to this come back to it tomorrow. See how far we can get. I don't want to don't want to be holding people to watching a stream. I can't imagine this is a very interesting thing to watch visually. I'm sure people are enjoying listening to me, but you know, you can just listen on mute. That's fine. Why is that one stacked? Is that because they're the same creature underneath? Oh, that is going to throw our grid off, isn't it? Oh, okay, no, good. Phew. I was worried there for a second. I have no idea why that's stacked on that particular creature. Ooh. But yeah, I also am thinking of doing a couple more short series. Still debating what to do on that though, because there's a couple of things that I really do want to do. There's Lego Planeswalkers, which I think would be quite good fun. But I don't know how trivial that's going to be. It's a nice concept and certainly nice for shorts, but whether or not it's sustainable, I don't know. As a sort of like long term pool, I guess, of things. Beyond that, I've got I might start doing engines, like just explaining infinite engines in 60 seconds. You know, how to get infinite life, for example. Just it would probably be for, it's not so much for established players, it'll probably be more for newbies. You know, here's how to go infinite with blah. Could be quite a nice one to do. And that it doesn't have to be trivial stuff. I mean, it could also be, here's how to get infinite auras. Here's how to get, you know, not like, oh, here's how to get infinite saprolings, for example. So there's a couple of options. What else was I thinking? Oh yeah, the other thing I was thinking was going through like Magic collectibles if I can get my hands on them. I think that'd be more of a one-off thing whenever I can actually pick something else up. But I've got these card games that I bought the other day off eBay that are they're from the designers of Magic the Gathering, but not like officially Magic the Gathering branded. I mean, they're Wizards of the Coast products. They are not you know, they're not official Magic the Gathering. They I think they do reuse some of the art assets as well. So I think it might be quite nice to unbox those just in a 60-second thing and say, you know, here, this game was called, well, it's Instinct and Earthquake. One of them is kind of like I want to say Trump's game. I think, is that like Whist maybe? I can't remember card games. What one of them's like that, and then there's Earthquake. I think you have to try and make strings and pairs of similarly coloured things, but you can also sort of play on the back of other people's bits as well. So it's an interesting one. I would like to unbox them and show them to people, because I think it's quite good to see some of the stuff that Wizards come out with as like officially branded stuff. Especially there's a huge amount of research that I did for Battle of Wits as well. Just some of the really weird stuff they did, like the sodas they came up with. You know, the custom branded sodas they came up with. I'm not proposing to get a soda from when they made the custom sodas, because I assume that any that would be alive now would definitely be out of date. So it is very tempting. God, I really want to go on eBay now. It cost me a huge amount of money to get it from the States, though. yeah, any sort of carbonated drink at this point is probably very toxic. But they do come up with like some really weird branded stuff. Like, how many people knew that they came out with a War of the Spark jigsaw last year? You know, 1,000-piece jigsaw. God knows why they came out with a War of the Spark one, because it's got, you know, War of the Spark was what, 2018? I'm going to say many years ago now. And they're just getting to the point of, oh yeah, we're going to release some merchandise. What is the merchandise you're going to release? Oh, it's going to be based on War of the Spark, that very well received set. I mean, you know, generally speaking, yes, was well received, but you know, other reasons around it not so good. Also, it's so, you know, X years out of date. Like, we've had so many sets since then. I mean, it doesn't take that long to approve a jigsaw puzzle, or maybe it does. I don't know. Well, we've not hit any limits yet. I mean, the next limit we might hit is 256, but I would be surprised at that. Game does feel like it is starting to chunk, though, in terms of just the speed of drawing cards and like resolving abilities. I'm clicking, I think, relatively quickly here. You know, I click that. It's taken about 5 seconds to be put on the stack. And this was one of the issues I had with the other run, was the with the auras run, which was that as you got more objects on the battlefield, everything was just a little bit slower. But again, you know, for a program that is somewhat maligned, somewhat fairly maligned, let's be fair, you know, but you know, for a program that is maligned for falling over at a stiff breeze, it seems to be doing a relatively decent job so far. I'm surprised nobody's made the what is this, a magic game for ants joke yet, but maybe you're all just in awe of the current situation. For anyone who's playing playing along Battle of Wits as well, how are you getting on with it? We've had 14 days of Battle of Wits. Hopefully, hopefully you got some of those points. If you're not playing Battle of Wits, you might be missing out. The Battle of Wits on my community posts. If you're subscribed and you have the YouTube app, probably they'll just pop up in your subscription feed. They do for me. I think it's actually better to use it on the app as well, because if you don't do it on the app, it like, for some reason YouTube does not understand how to zoom out images on the web interface. Feels like they, certainly on the web interface for the YouTube, they really haven't gone into the same level of detail for things like community posts. It just feels tacked on, which is kind of sad, because it feels like there's a lot of people that are missing or could be missing the stuff you put out. But Google being Google. I'm slightly worried that chat is dead now. Oh well. If you are there, chat, say hello. Give me a wave. Hey, Skier says the Battle of Wits is really fun. Excellent. Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act, really. Yeah, it seems like the majority of people playing it so far are kind of newish players. So some of the options that I've put out, people have just not known at all, and some of the options that some of the options that people have put out are just like, oh yeah, we this is fine. Yeah, I recognize this from the thing. You never want to spend time puzzling over the super pixelated one. Bob Wizard is listening to my dulcet tones, as it were. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Battle of the Wits is certainly an interesting one. There are definitely ones where, if you know it, the opening palette is so distinctive that you just have no choice but to get. I mean, Elesh Norn on, what was it, day 5 was probably it was the one where I thought everyone is going to get this. Like, everyone is going to get this because Elesh Norn is that distinctive. And it is because it has a it's a predominantly white card with a massive splodge of red. Whereas like today's, for example, which is kind of a massive splodge of red with a mountain of like white and grey. I feel like if you know that card, you absolutely will be happy with that, and you'd be like, yeah, I can guess this on point one. And there's always one person that's like, oh, I know this card. I've this is my favorite commander. I've been playing this for years. It's a terror in our it's a terror in our group. And everyone's like, nope, 0 points. I've never seen this card in my life. What is this? Because I have been trying to keep it to the EDH. Well, I have a list of commanders, valid commanders. I don't necessarily know if they are ranked in commander popularity order or whether they're ranked in just popularity. There's like an EDH rec ranking on Scryfall, and it's entirely powered off that. But yeah, I mean, today's my plan was to today's was fitting in with a theme, shall we say, and it also introducing the concept of alternate arts, which was the other thing I wanted to introduce today, just because I wanted to throw aside a curveball for people. But yeah, it's the hidden theme was very on point this week. It's going to get easier next week. I will guarantee it. Well, I hope so anyway. Yeah, I'll probably be going back. I'm gonna try, and I think it might be time for a week of slightly older commanders, not so, because to be honest, my card retention for the last couple of years has been kind of poor, and I feel like that is correlated with just a massive influx of cards. I don't know, like, quantitatively, how many more cards got released, say, last year as opposed to the year before that. But it always felt like sets had a time to breathe, and I would always, I'd pore over the set and just be like, yeah, okay, I really like the look of this card. Or, I wouldn't memorize every single common from every single set, but certainly like the standout cards. But I mean, there are sets now that I just don't have any retention of whatsoever. The Commander Legends Baldur's Gate set from last year. Was it last year? Probably, maybe. And that's a problem. Like, I honestly don't remember. Just like the sheer number of stuff that's come out is like, maybe some of the high points, like the really really high points, I'll have seen. But I could quite easily, I think, play Commander with some people, and they'll just be pulling out cards that I have never ever encountered in my entire life. I feel like that's just a. I don't know if that is contributing to more generally just a fatigue in people when it comes to when it comes to actually playing the game. It always felt nicer when I think Magic, the Magic cards are kind of a shared language, really. We have. I mean, it is a complicated game. It's a complicated game with ever increasing numbers of game pieces. But there is still there's still a feasibility, I guess, to being able to keep track of all the cards. It just felt like in the last year they've just printed so much stuff. It just feels too much for me. Like my brain has just gone, yeah, I'll that'll be fine at some point. And then the Transformers stuff that they just randomly threw into Brothers War. It's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna have 15 Transformers in there as well. It's like, okay, right, why? Which you've also got to keep track of, or not. But yeah, like I say, you could quite easily. I could quite easily be in a commander pod these days and not know any of the cards in the decks. So yeah, whether that's actually like causing a problem for the game, it's a difficult one. I mean, Twitter will say that the game is dying and it's all because of the corporate greed, and I don't know if I believe that, but I could easily see the justification for it. Certainly the shareholders stuff. Just having to, they are public. They have to perform on shareholders, and unfortunately, in corporate America, capitalism, you have to show infinite growth. And yeah, for a game like Magic, you do not want it to be growing infinitely, really, because it's going to come at the detriment of something else, unless your company is like really, really clever. I don't know. It's a difficult one. Like if they've got a couple of knobs that they can turn, I guess. So I mean, obviously the reserve, working out what to do about the reserve list, they might just get rid of that. That would be one knob they could turn for a huge amount of money. Getting a good client that can do Commander, right? Just if you could play Commander online and you actually had to pay for your decks, pay for pay tickets to play as well. Yeah, why wouldn't you? It also handled all the life totals and I understand that MTGO is a client that can do that, but certainly a lot of people do not have MTGO. So I think they're gonna have to do something similar for Arena at some point, but then they're gonna run into the same issue that MTGO has, which is this that and the same problem that anyone has when it comes to Magic the Gathering Online and Magic clients in general, which is it's a bloody hard game to code. And I've tried once. I'm a single person though, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is something about that. But yeah, it's an absolutely daunting project. I would not know where I'd start if I had to do this as a coding project. Well, no, I do know where I'd start. I'd try and write down a really, really detailed design, and then it would all go pear-shaped because they keep introducing new rules. But there's so many edges. I mean, the game has certain things it just doesn't support anyway. I mean, for a client, you might be able to get around that by just not including those cards. Season of the Witch, just ignore it. It doesn't exist. You say we do not support Season of the Witch. We do not support Library of Leng. We do not support Plan Glacial Worm. To make it easy for yourself to start with. somebody made a program to find the best standard deck, and he was like, "This is brutal." Yeah, that's that sort of programming is always going to be. I mean, there's probably things you can do to improve on it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody decides that AI, there's some way of detecting AI and coming up with a deck. I wouldn't like. I wonder if there's a, um, you know, if you just went to Chat GPT, for example, it's just be like, come up with a deck that can beat the meta in Magic the Gathering of, I don't know, ad nauseum in modern. Yeah, come up with a modern legal deck. Um, the trouble is, obviously, like, AI is only as good as its training, and I think ChatGPT is only trained up to like 2021. So yeah, it'll only have oldish cards, but AI is probably going to be the way forward for stuff like that. There is brute force. I mean, the trouble with brute force is that uh, it's quite computationally difficult. I mean, yeah, if you want to be able to model, part of the problem is modeling this game, and it is extremely hard to model this game. So certainly, yes, I think you'd struggle to. I think you'd struggle to model it. I know X Mage exists though, and like, I think X Mage does have a rules engine in it. I don't know how comprehensive it is though. I am not an expert on it. And then, like, I don't know if Cockatrice is still a thing as well. But Cockatrice, I definitely don't think has got rules. But honestly, though, I feel like the future for Wizards might be if they could somehow integrate a client with a digital client with the paper stuff using Spell Table. Like, if you could play with your friends, but if I had a deck on MTGO and I could play with my friends on Spell Table, that would be pretty neat. Don't know how hard that would be actually. Probably harder than you might expect, because you wouldn't need any rules engine stuff there. You just need control over the permanents to be like, put a thing on here or enchant this with some other thing, and there'd be different ways around it. We're getting close to another programming number, so that's interesting. This is what, 255? 256 is where we might start seeing some problems, depending on if the number of, I don't know, creatures allowed is only up to 256. I could have a byte overflow at this point. That'd be quite cool. If they're storing the numbers of creatures in bytes, then shame on them. Basically. Hey, we got to 256. Hooray. They are getting pretty teeny as well, these Sakashimas. Like I say, we'll probably get to 300, and then I'm going to stop the recording for today and stop the stream for today, just because I will probably be going there for 2 hours. 2 hours of recording, and I've been going for an hour and 20 minutes on streaming. That's probably enough. By the time we get to 300, doesn't show any signs of slowing down though, which is kind of neat. I'm also quite excited that I've got a fair few signups for the project I said at the start of the month, which was the Patreon special tier, which is going to be quite cool. So that's the I've put a $3 tier on Patreon instead of a $2 tier, and that $3 tier is going to get you a collectible or set of collectibles depending on how many people are involved. Knowing me, I will go over the top. So, but that's gonna be quite cool. I've got, I mean, if there's a limited number of people, if it's like under 100, I'll probably end up sending them a piece of treasurers anyway for free, because I've still got these gold treasure coins around, which I haven't yet done anything with. Ignorant question: why not Scoot Swarm? Because I want to have 1,000 faces. This is Sakashima with 1,000 faces. Also, I'm aiming to not have tokens. These are all non-tokens. On Magic the Gathering Online, there is a 200 token limit. So we are trying to bypass that, and we are successfully past that at the moment. We are up to 260 creatures. So yes, if we wanted to just do tokens, then we probably would use Scoot Swarm. Bob Wizard says, I've had a pipe dream where I make a client for MTG players to be able to access a rules engine game online that costs nothing. That is how they should do it. Seriously. Like, if Wizards of the Coast actually spent some money and hired a software company, I don't know how much it would cost, but hired a software company to create a rules engine that had an API, just an API, standard API, HTTP API that anybody could access, and they open that up to anybody. And I mean, if you have they'd have to put a whole bunch of work into it. But if you had MTGO talking to MTGA talking to, I don't know, some random client that I can run on my phone, that would be so amazing. Proper cross-platform gaming. You can play Magic any format, anywhere, and it all comes off the same REST API servers. That's what they should do. That's the architecture they should be doing. Crazy Logic says, just got here, and what on earth are we looking at? We are trying to hit the I'm trying to see if there's any limit on the number of creatures that can be out at any one given time. So I'm trying to get specifically 1,000 Sakashima of 1,000 faces to be on the battlefield. And so far we are up to 263, possibly 264 in a second. Once this ability resolves, the client is having a good time at the moment, and it's definitely not laggy at all. So what we're actually aiming to do is go to 300 for tonight, and I might chance my arm and leave the computer on, and maybe come back to it on a separate day, maybe tomorrow, because I think 300 at a time is probably enough. But yeah, the combo here is that we have we had Sakashima of 1,000 faces. I've stuck an infinite reflections on Sakashima of 1,000 faces. We also have eternal. Is this eternal bond? Elemental bond. There we go. Elemental bond. Whenever a creature with power 3 enters the battlefield, 3 or less, 3 or more. 3 or more. There we go. You get a card. You get to draw a card, which is nice. So yes, it is a non-mandatory thing, so that might go to be a problem. I have just heard a bring in my ear, and I do not know what it is for. So yeah, who knows? I cannot remember what I set up audio alerts for on this on this program. I'm a very bad streamer. I'm hoping to get back into streaming actually again this year. I may be aiming to do some commander content, which would be quite exciting. Probably on Spell Table, mostly because I have, well, the person that does or did a bunch of really fun streams in the UK is taking a break for they're going to start a family, which is good, good and awesome. But unfortunately, that does mean that there is a gap in the market, and I really like. I'm starting to get back into my commander, and I may start up a commander stream, but not a normal commander stream. I may be doing Commander Plane Chase, just because Commander Plane Chase would be quite cool, and I don't think anyone else is doing Commander Plane Chase. Why does row 7 have one fewer Sakashimas? I think these Sakashimas are the same underlying creature. They are. These are Areskos Swiftclaws. I've put 2 Areskos Swiftclaws in the deck. There are some duplicate white creatures in the deck, so that is the game has decided, because they are the same base underlying creature, that that's why it is. So that's the reason we have Areskos Swiftclaws under there, and we got 2 of those. But otherwise, I basically picked 1,000 creatures out of my deck and then stuck an extra 5 in for luck, which is useful because I had Harkon and Curse of Leeches in there as well, which is not ideal, because Harkon can only be played from the graveyard, and Curse of Leeches is curse and not anything else. So yes, that was a mild issue. Although to be fair, maybe I could get Curse of Leeches in my graveyard, but that's it's not really useful. But yeah, hopefully got some good stuff planned in the pipeline. Gonna try and be a bit more regular this year in terms of uploading stuff. I have that unfortunate thing where I come up with video ideas and then have to make them immediately, and then as soon as I've edited them, it's like, well, I'll upload it and set it going. Like, fine. Who needs an upload schedule anyway? And I mean, generally that kind of works because most of my videos are short, but it does mean that if I don't space them out occasionally, I do get these periods of weeks or months between uploads, and then 5 uploads in a day, which is not ideal for the YouTube algorithm, shall we say. YouTube likes you to be a little bit more regular than that. So yeah, I'm going to aim to try and get to a few more shorts in the mix. Just some, yeah, I would like to try and do some fun stuff. I mean, if anyone's seen cool old collectible stuff that might be worth unboxing and having a look at, then stuff that isn't just packs of cards, I think that might be a good little series. I do think though that one of the comments that somebody left on one of my videos recently was just like, this is completely infeasible. Why aren't you showing us some cool combos that we can do? And I mean, fundamentally, the reason is like, I just because that's not what I've made in the past, and there are other people that have made content like that, and I'm assuming that this is out there, like this is how a combo works. But I don't know. It might be that what people are actually clamoring for is a fun 2-card interaction that they've just never seen before. Who knows? That's the sort of thing you could probably fit into 60 seconds though, or at least 20 seconds maybe. A fun combo of the day. But I don't want to try and tie myself into daily uploads. I'm already doing 1 daily upload. I mean, daily uploads are good, but they very frequently become casualties of real life, and it's a pain. Bob says, I've been trying to upload weekly and I've been struggling to meet that goal because I'm busy with having a job. I feel you, Bob. I have a job. I am a 9-to-5 worker. I do not make content full time. I don't think I'm ever going to get to that point. I'd like to. I think if I could get to the point where I was being able to, if I was able to sustain maybe a day off work, like a month or a week or something like that, maybe I'd go for it. The trouble is, like, if you start going part-time at your main job, then you start getting, like, you know, it's harder to be, you know, harder to make progress in that main job. You know, last year I started, I think last year I actually made money for the first time doing uploads, video uploads. It has been a net loss for every single year prior to that, and you know, that's just the realities, unfortunately, of video uploading. But you know, I was very fortunate last year to get a couple of sponsored posts, and it justified making them. You know, it did justify the time, and it means that I've been able to do a whole bunch of other projects as well, which is the reason I took it in the first place, because it's a lot easier to do new content and weird content that probably wouldn't get funded otherwise if it's coming out of your own pocket, if you're paying for it with sponsorship money. So MTGO is struggling. MTGO is, yeah, you might have noticed the lag now between playing a card and resolving a card. It is getting a little bit significant. Drawing the card's the weird bit. It's just like, you know, the card that's on top of the deck, just draw it. I love the crazy combos. It inspired my favorite deck involving Cultivator Colossus, Eternal Dominion, Uro, and 92 lands. That which one's Cultivator? Cultivator Colossus is that weird. Is it like the size? It's as big as the number of lands you have. Eternal Dominion is the epic spell which allows you to search other people's libraries for their stuff. Is it stuff? Artifacts? I'm going to say artifacts, lands, and creatures. Uro's Uro. Yeah, so I off the top of my head, I don't know the combo that you're trying to get at with that, which is fine because it's getting late for me here as well. So yeah, like I say, I'm gonna be getting to 300 and then probably going to bed at this rate. But Uyo, that Kamigawa. I do not know the card. But yeah, I'd love to. I think I'd love to get a bit of a series going with some combos. If that's something you want to see, let me know in chat. Seriously, like if it sounds like you know, if it sounds like something you'd watch, because I mean that we're talking shorts, so they're going to be 60 seconds or less. The trouble is, I think they don't get shown to people unless you know, they just don't get shown to people unless you actually go in the client. And sometimes they get shown on the desktop client. Cultivator says draw a land, put a land down, then repeat if you put a land down for 7 mana. Yeah. Awesome. And Uyo bounces 2 lands to copy a spell. Ooh, and Eternal Dominion. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So you get multiple copies of the epic spell. That's nice. Yeah, I'm this close to making a commander deck with some epic spells in it, and having every other card in it have an activated ability that you can activate from either the graveyard or your hand. So you can even if you're like locked out, you just activate your abilities. So it's got all of like the channel abilities from like Kamigawa block, and it's got embalm, I think, is in there as well. So it can, if you discard it due to hand size, it goes into your graveyard, and then you can embalm it from your graveyard. Cycling as well, loads of cycling cards. Trying to make a deck out of it is a bit of a bit of a weird thing to try and pin down, just because there's so many different things you can do. But yeah, trying to make epic spell. Yeah, trying to make epic spells work is a bit of an uphill struggle. I would love it to work though. Trying to find the right commander for it as well is an interesting choice. But yeah, I like your ability of getting 40 copies of Eternal Dominion on the stack. That is a true solution. I like it because you win quite quickly with that. Let's be fair. Be an absolute nightmare to play on spell table though, I have to say. We are having some real issues at the moment, aren't we? Some real issues here. Trying to resolve these creatures. We're only up to 280 creatures. Like, I'm hoping it's not going to take 30 seconds to resolve things at the end of this. That would be kind of sucky. Like, playing the creature is relatively fast. The replacement entering the battlefield ability is relatively fast as well. But then there's like this 30-second gap from me hitting no to actually then the triggering and then drawing a card. How long are you going to keep doing this? I am going to keep. I wanted to get to 1,000. I may try getting to it. 1,000 tonight is going to be difficult. I'm going to probably stop at 300 tonight, but I'm going to leave the game open and hope that MTGO does not restart or die in the meantime. If it does, then I'll be sad. There's not a lot I can do about it. But yeah, this is one that I think is going to be a multi-day thing. MTGO is usually quite good at solitaire games. It will just let you keep a solitaire game open for quite a while. Like I've definitely left solitaire games going by mistake before, and they've just persisted in the background. I think they basically assume if you're in a solitaire game, there's nothing, you're not affecting any other players, so it doesn't really matter. Which is why I like playing in solitaire games, because it gives me all the time in the world to do nonsense like this. God, it really is struggling here, isn't it? Can you see how slowly it's moving? I wonder if I can get System Manager up. Let's have a look. Currently only using 1.6 gigabytes of memory, so that's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's better than I was expecting. Like, honestly, did you think MTGO would have been able to handle this many creatures in the first place? This many permanents in the first place? Let's not forget, it's 283 creatures, which we've got from our handy dandy Crusader of Odric count. Plus we've got 12 lands, plus there's tiny little cities. We somehow got the city's blessing somehow. No idea how we got that. Probably one of our creatures. We've got a Claws of Gix as well. An Omniscience. Then the Elemental Bond, and then our avatars, and obviously the planar portals as well, which we used to bootstrap our thing. But yeah, this number of permanents is, I think, quite impressive. I wouldn't be sad if I got to 300 and then had to make a video about that. I would like to try and get to 1,000 and just see how ridiculous it is. I probably won't end up streaming that the next portion of this though, just because I think at this point it is starting to get too laggy between turns. I might just try and get to the, come in, do half an hour of work and progress the count up again and see how many days it takes me to get to the end of it. Yeah, I think previously it took us like 16 minutes to do 100 or 50 maybe. So yeah, we are. Can definitely tell we're taking longer. I'd love to have some statistics for this. Like I'd love to be able to sort of analyze the logs at the end of this, maybe work out exactly how long it took us between different steps. I don't know. Anyway, like I was saying, the I might as well shill the Patreon as well, where yes, you only have until the end of January if you want to be part of the collectibles club. Because I am at the end of January, I will be disabling that tier for new signups. So if you want to be part of that, to get a cool collectible present in December, then maybe you should consider it. It is entirely up to you, though. I mean, I'm not expecting people. I know we're currently in a cost of living crisis in the UK, so I'm absolutely. I mean, I don't need people's money to survive, but certainly the money that's going into this collectibles tier is probably going to be paying mostly for postage. Let's be fair. But if you like cool collectible stuff, then and you want to support the channel, it's mostly about supporting me. But you're here too. Being here is probably more important. Certainly listening to me ramble for the last hour and 42 minutes is definitely more important. Oh, we're so close. We're only 13 away. Game's going to fall over really hard now. God, it is. I even feel like the spinny wheel is lagging out. Like the spinny wheel of waiting for oh. Yeah, because if the server has to actually like be processing this stuff, that's where we start to get into some weird. Like if it's downloading the entire game state every time, that could be quite big if we're not careful. Because it has to essentially download. What if it was sensible? If it's sensibly coded, it would download a delta to state, right? It would just say, yes, you had state X, and the deltas to that are this, this, and this. That would be the sensible option. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is essentially the MTGO downloading what is the current state of the union every single time. That's why it's taking some time. Who knew that if you had 288 creatures out of the battlefield at the same time, all of which are subtly different copies of Sakashima, but all have different underlying objects at the same time that also have to be considered when it comes to things. Who knew that could be a problem? Oh, it's the final countdown. We're on to the home stretch. and even casting creatures now is becoming becoming a problem. So yeah, I'm sure this is fine. I will once we finish this, I will sign off and go and play some Vampire Survivors. That is probably what I'll end up doing. Maybe get an early night, but probably end up playing Vampire Survivors. Maybe read a book. I do have my new Brandon Sanderson to go on, which I'm very excited by, but I might just wait till I get the hardcover, which is arriving at some point soon. I hope, anyway. I do have the ebook version, which I have started reading though, so I should probably do that. The 7th row fixed itself. The 7th row did something weird. We do still have a double Sakashima, so the 7th row is actually still broken, but in a slightly less broken way, if that makes sense. There is still the double Oresco Swiftclaw or whatever still exists, but for some reason the renderer has decided that it's all fine and we're only a slight few pixels out. More interesting, I suppose it's less interesting, is just that we have the aura on the top of the top one, which is causing the top row to be weird as well. One of the things I will do at the end of it is delete the infinite reflection, so that we have a nice clear board. I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion that might cause the game to go weird. Really wouldn't surprise me. MTGO has been a bit weird for me recently. Certainly for things like you know, I'm the first combo of this had I used Essence of the Wild, which I humbled. So humble is a spell which makes it lose its abilities and it just turns into a 0/1 creature. And then I made Sakashima the Imposter a copy of the Essence of the Wild, which turned it into, it should have turned it into a Sakashima the Imposter with the Essence of the Wild ability. And the Essence of the Wild ability should have been active. However, the on MTGO the ability was blanked out in the copy, the Sakashima copy of the Essence of the Wild, which makes no sense whatsoever to me. And then I tried to humble that, and as soon as I tried to humble that copy, the Sakashima copy, the game complained at me and said, choose a Sakashima the Imposter to keep. And that was literally the only Sakashima the Imposter on the battlefield, and trying to click it did absolutely nothing. So yeah, for some things MTGO is surprisingly good, and for some things it's surprisingly bad. But then I realized that Infinite Reflections was going to be an infinitely better solution to our problem, mostly because it keeps the art. So if I was using Essence of the Wild, all I would end up with is Essence of the Wild art plus Sakashima the Imposter name plus Sakashima of 1,000 Faces ability. Whereas now we actually have, you know, a huge number of Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, which is much, much, much cooler. And I use the word cool very badly. This is not cool. This is interesting. It might be a little bit cool, I don't know. For me, it's been cool just to be sitting here chatting to people and you know, talking about stuff. Stuff is good. How are people liking Phyrexia All Is One preview so far? For me, I'm I don't know. I'm liking them. I think the start, but I think starting off with all the Planeswalkers was probably a mistake. You know, I think it's well, for a start, the you know, the Nissa one has somewhat spoiled me. you know, oh yeah, is she going to be completed? Is she not going to be completed? And then it's like, oh yeah, she's a completed planeswalker. You know, oh, we're going to release the card on the same day. You know, day 2 story. And then it's like, will she, won't she? You know, we're going to have some intrigue about it. And it's like, no, there's no intrigue. There's no intrigue. It's exactly what you expect it to be. Yes, she is completed. So I don't know. It just, normally they're better at the scheduling for this kind of thing. I just hope all the completed planeswalkers die and don't turn back. It's really annoying because I really like Vraska. I don't just want Vraska to die. I could lose Nahiri. I could lose Luca. I'm sad about Luca. I know a lot of people won't be sad about Luca, but I'm kind of sad about Luca because I don't think Luca was handled particularly well. I don't know if that's going to just I don't know if they're just cutting their losses in terms of like lore and just going, oh, Luca, yeah, Luca was kind of a bit of an antagonist in Strixhaven, yeah. Also, you know, Luca is you know, was the antagonist in Ikoria for a bit. Also a bit of a protagonist at points. But once he met the Ozolith, then suddenly it started getting into his brain. There is intrigue there. Like, we still don't know about the Ozolith and why who was influencing his mind in theory, like who was whispering to him or whatever it was in the story. I don't know if we ever will. I don't know if we're going back to Ikoria. It seems like I don't necessarily know it's been well received as one of the planes. Certainly in terms of like lore, people didn't really like the whole ebook way of doing things. I love the ebooks personally. Like the 2 ebooks I thought were really well. The Throne of Eldraine one was really well written. The Ikoria one probably less well written, but I still enjoyed it. But it very quickly it's very quickly obvious that the book, the ebook, and the cards actually don't match up whatsoever. So, you know, the trouble with this, I think, is that the creative department don't have a they're not working in song sometimes in terms of the story beats that they need to get into play. And since we've moved to the east, the magic story as well. I mean, having the story for free accessible online, absolutely fantastic, 100% behind it. But they are doing it too fast. They're covering too much ground in too little story. You know, it feels like previous sets you'd have, you know, sets in your back in the old days, you know, you'd have like 10, maybe 15 stories, it felt like, per set, you know, just doing the magic story. It might have just been that it was more like 6, I don't know, 6 per set, but you got multiple sets per the thing. But yeah, it just feels like they've got too there's not enough story per set now to sort of get a flavor for what's going on. You see all the cards, but it's just like, it felt like they wove a much more cohesive story when they had more creative time to play with it. I don't know. I still think they should go back to 2 set blocks, but that's just me. 2 sets for me is perfect in terms of well, two sets in theory should be good enough for you know, establishing lore, establishing establishing sets. The trouble with that, I guess, is that Innistrad Midnight Hunt, Innistrad Crimson Vow. I mean, actually, no. From a narrative point of view, I feel like Midnight Vow and Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow probably was pretty decent in terms of the the amount of lore we got. I feel like that's probably the most fleshed out the story's been for a while. Possibly like Kamigawa, but Kamigawa was a really good storyline. But yeah, the whole we're going to spend one block here, and you both have to have introduction of a new plane in some cases, plus introduction of a whole bunch of new characters, plus conflict, plus resolution within 5 stories seems ambitious, really. Whereas like if we go back to original Zendikar, first set, establishing Zendikar. Zendikar is an adventure plane. Ooh, the Royal is really cool, etc., etc. And then Worldwake comes along, and it's like, yeah, even more weird stuff's happening. And oh yeah, there were these old gods that got worshipped and stuff like that. And then finishing that off with Rise of the Eldrazi was like, I think that was the masterpiece, one of the masterpieces of Magic storytelling in recent memory. I think that trio of sets is probably one of the best sets, like lore wise, in my memory. It wasn't even like, oh, that's the set you were doing when you started. It's not at all that, because I started in Shards of Alara, but certainly that triple was extremely good. All right, we've made it to 300, and MTGO has not died. It's not happy, but it's not died. So I'm going to leave that here for tonight, and hopefully when I come back tomorrow, then I will be able to resume this and try to finish off. Just try and finish this off. I don't think I'm going to finish it off. I've done 300 in 2.5 hours. 300 in 2.5 hours is pretty good, I would say. But it does mean that it's going to take probably, I don't know, 8 hours to do the next 700. So yeah, unless I script this somehow using macros, which is possible, I might look into doing that. I might be able to like program it to automatically do it. Unless I can do that, I'm just going to have to do this all manually. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this nice little ramble that we've been going on. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the chatting, and hopefully I will see you next time.